Sinisterism is about finding the primal aspects of the left-hand path, primal in history, primal in the psyche, thus obtaining truth. Thomas Leroy.
Greetings, my friends, and welcome back to your dose of sinister heathenry. But for those new to the channel, I'm Thomas Leroy, founder of the International Left-Hand Path organization, the Sect of the Horn God. The Sect is an educational foundation created to not only make those with the black flame aware of its glow, but to also restore the shadow aspects to the ancient gods by going deep into the past, not only historically, but also psychologically. For the primordial depths of the psyche are limitless. So, if this sounds interesting, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to learn more, join the organization, the Sect of the Horn God, at the link down below. Thank you. To be fair to those I attacked in my last video, those who say they're on the left-hand path but have the intellectual depth of a mud puddle, I'd like to open up about my own personal practice. I shall bare my soul, if you will. Those who have watched more than one video on this channel probably know that the philosophy I adhere to is called sinisterism. But for the new people out there, what's sinisterism? To go a bit deeper than what's in the intro of this video, sinisterism is the utilization of the left-hand path in an eclectic form to find the primal truth behind it all. Now, nothing against LaVey and the foundation he laid down, because I have nothing but respect for the man. But I've become frustrated with modern Satanism. There's a lot of ridiculous shit out there that calls itself satanic. I personally want something more substantial to base my practice on. I want more from the left-hand path. So what sinisterism is an attempt to find the source of the black flame. And just as white light consists of many different colors, the black flame also has its spectrum. By locating the commonalities of the different practices that fall under the purview of the path, my objective is to glean that ebony purity, that source of sinister gnosis, or that base knowledge found within the primordial chaos. One does this by going back, way back, not only into history, but also the psyche. Even though we occultists delve into what can be referred to as metaphysics, there is a scientific basis to what I speak of. Ancestral memory is very real, and there are answers buried within the foundation of our biological blueprint, our genes. But to extract those answers is not only the challenge, but the joy of what we do. Remember, it's all about the journey. Now, my practice is not only based on established left-hand path philosophies, but also on a form of dark paganism, taken from what we know of ancient druidism, sprinkled with some aspects of animism. Animism, it's said, is at the root of all spiritual practices and is thus added to the mix because of how very little we know of real druidism. And I emphasize ancient real druidism, not the modern shit. This is because modern druidism is only about 200 years old, with very little in common with what the Celts practice. This form that now festers in modernity is filled with these ridiculous notions of goodness and light, when in truth, the ancients lived in a very dark age. An age that the modern druids look back on through the narrow scope of presentism, not wanting to admit to themselves that druidism has roots in savage rites. They project modernity onto the past, a modern perspective that most of them don't realize is greatly influenced by the ethics of the Christian church. They attempt to revolt against established religion while taking modern Christian baggage back into the past with them. Modernity ruins everything, even the past. Besides, if you know anything about Indo-European mythology, you'll know that the gods are not Christ-like entities, but are more balanced in the respect they tend to have a dark side. Some of you new viewers might be thinking, what's with all this darkness bullshit? Are you some wannabe scary edgelord? The answer to that question is simple, my Christian or limp-wristed hippie friend. Truth is found in darkness. It's the ultimate source because it existed before the light. Besides, as I like to say, you learn so much more from darkness than light because you'll go blind staring at the sun. What I'm doing is daring to find the supreme expression of left-hand path enlightenment or sinister illumination. Still confused about my emphasis on darkness? Okay, it's like this. Because of the fact that for 2,000 years there's been a greater stress on the light half of being, the balance within the collective unconscious of the Western world is off kilter, tilted toward the light to such a degree that chaos reigns. Look around you. It's filled with those that the light has blinded, those cursed to stumble around in a mundane hellhole. They think they found meaning, but all is a lie. The truth is, even modernity itself is a lie. It's a phantasmagoria created by those now long dead but kept alive by the powers that be to keep the populace docile. You believe you have agency, right? Well, you don't. It's all an approximation of reality created on the presupposition that if the average human is given the illusion of autonomy, they will not test the strength of the chains that bind them. Now, I have a confession concerning my practice. I took a break from what could be labeled dark magical ritual because the place where we conducted our rites, a beautiful winery just north of the Napa Valley, burned down in 2016. We called it the Abbey of the Horn God. It was more than a home. It was an environment that took one away from the curse of modernity. And I had vowed right after the fire that I wasn't going to partake in any magical rites again until we were back on the property. Instead, to compensate, I delved into meditative practices and shadow work. But it appears that any hope of us returning has ended when another wildfire recently swept through what was left of the winery. Now, some of you Christians might be thinking that we've been suffering God's retribution, His wrath. The Lord was smiting us. Well, not so fast, my judgmental friends, because the property just to the east of us was also destroyed, and he who owned it was a well-known local pastor, a good Christian. Anyway, just within the past year or so, I returned to performing dark rites, and I would have to admit I missed it. Okay, so all well and good, Thomas Leroy, but how does one break those bonds you spoke of earlier, the bonds of modernity? Where does one begin? You start by acknowledging the darkness modernity is projected upon, because in its depths, that's where you find truth. You need more clarification? Let me put it simply. Dare to look behind the curtain by going deep into your psyche to face the horrors that lie within. And this should be done without trepidation, without fear, through ritual, shadow work, deep meditation, or a combination of all three. Most of who delve into the esoteric arts choose to ignore the dark absolute that lies at the foundation of being. It is the cursed realm that the whimsical distractions of modernity shelters one from. But it's not going anywhere, because it was there before you and it will continue to exist long after you're gone. Some call it hell. And we've discovered that by bringing forth what dwells within that churning abyss can not only be revelatory, but also cleansing to one's soul. So, in conclusion, my friends, what's your personal practice? Is it satanic, Luciferian, dark pagan, heathen, or a combination of all of the above? Leave your comments down below and let's get a conversation going, but keep it civil. Remember, the devil is a gentleman. Until next time.